And we're back for another exciting episode of the Creators Collective. We are going to be having a good bit of fun here today. It's probably going to be a shorter than normal podcast, but we will see. It depends on how much Zack starts talking.
I blame William.
What?
This week we've got a few things. I don't know if we're going to be getting any Q&A just to try and shorten this up, but we'll see. So if you have any interesting questions you would like to have answered, put them in here. If we don't get them this week, I'll try and put them in the list for next week, so we can hit them then. But let's jump into it. Zack, what you got going
on? Let's see. What did I write down?
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm ready for that. Catching up with mail. So much forging lately with the blacksmith roses for Valentine's and 40 key fobs for urbanedc.com, who's actually they're selling my key lanyards, the forged lanyards now. So they did a pre-order of 40 of them. So between that and the roses, I've been really busy forging, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I have to start that sculpture for the law firm this week. I just finished up recording a leatherworking video because I had so many questions and comments on my Instagram stuff that I did back in December. People asking if I'm going to do a video and kind of
looking forward to that one.
Show people how to get into it. So I just finished editing the most boring 40-minute video you will ever watch. It's a how-to video.
That sounds like something I would do.
That is long form.
It is 40 minutes, and it is boring. But if you really want to learn how to do stuff, hopefully the information will be. And I guess it could be interesting if you're interested in learning that sort of stuff. It's just so different from what I normally do. So
you're actually creating a lot of holes?
What do you mean?
You said it was boring.
Oh. Gotcha.
Joke of the week.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot different. And you know what? I've talked about it before, but just I'm trying to one of my goals for 2018 is to not care about YouTube numbers, be it how many views I get or how many subscribers I get. It's just that sucks the fun right out of it. And I want to focus on trying to be as good to the followers and subscribers that I have versus trying to appeal to more of them. And I got enough, like I said, questions and interest in the leatherworking stuff for people asking me to put out a video explaining things that I decided, you know what, I'm going to do it. So it's totally different than my normal videos, but it's got a lot of information. It just starts out with, how to make a card wallet, like the slim little leather.
So I hear your dog likes the taste of leather.
Yeah. It's funny. So Sean Stone, he asked me to make him a wallet, and I'm like, oh, sweet. This is perfect. I already have one sitting around. Like, I have a couple of them sitting around. Let me know which one you want. So I have two vegetable or some dyed ones. I have a handful of different ones that I made a while back. And he's like, oh, I like that one. So they're all sitting on my kitchen island. I come back from the shop after a few hours. Of like the 3 or 4 of them that are sitting there, guess which one my dog chewed up? Yeah, I was pissed. All the other ones are fine. It's just the one that actually sold. So now I have to
fun.
But so yeah, that video should be out. I have it posted. I just haven't made it public yet because I'm going to put a link that'll take you to I have to make a page on my website that'll show you where you can get all the tools. But it's just a very simple introductory video on how to get started in leatherworking. So, and I plan on if people like this one, if it's well received, I'll work into some more advanced and intricate.
Have you checked out kit.com?
No, but I keep getting slammed with emails from kit.com asking me to sign up. So
yeah, they do.
I've looked into them, and yeah,
it just makes
Squarespace. It's not as much of a bonus.
Yeah, it's easier for me to put the links in my video description if I can just say my tools, my camera gear, my whatever. Yeah. And then people can follow that, because I get people, what do you shoot with? What cameras do you use? What lenses do you use? What audio do you use? What?
Yeah, On the recent videos, I've just started putting a link to my website because I have all the tools that I use on my website, and I
Yeah,
don't
that's what I
want
do
to.
too.
So not that anybody ever reads the video description anyway, but so I
True.
just try and get it on the first line.
Yeah,
I can't
but
tell you how many. What's that?
you dove into the turning rabbit hole I
Oh
saw
my
on
God.
Instagram.
Yeah. So I made this thing the other day. This you guys can see this on the camera.
Yeah.
That was my first bowl.
What's that turned out of?
I don't know. The guy.
It's like a cherry.
No, the guy, I think the guy that sold it to me
Mhm.
said it was like Bisophius or Bishophus or some wood that I've never ever heard of in my life. And I spent like an hour trying to type in every combination of letters that has those consonants and vowels in them, and I couldn't find anything close. So I don't know if he just
Uh,
made it up or what.
Honestly, it looks like some American elm that I've recently seen.
It stinks.
Oh,
I can't describe
Elm
it. It kind of smells
elm
like a
can
toilet.
stink.
It smells kind of like a toilet cake, like the little pink things that they put in the urinal. It's
Yeah, this elm has some nicknames that refer to urinals.
Huh. That could be it. I don't know. It has like that. It almost looks. I mean, it's definitely not poplar, but you see that like greenish blue something going on there.
yeah.
But so yeah, this is the first one, and I know I'm not the kind of person who's ever gonna like start a project and like let it dry out for 6 months and come back and finish it. Like I don't know. I just turned the sides kind of thick there, and that was a week ago, so it's still holding up. I just put friction polish on it to hopefully keep it give it some time to normalize humidity. So I don't know how.
I'm telling you, man, try that waxing. It slows down the drying. I haven't had a bowl crack. I mean, I've had them crack when they're still on the lathe, but after putting wax on them, they
Well, I
don't
need to go
crack.
get some mineral oil because I don't have any on hand.
Oh, yeah.
I would have done that. But this friction, I just use that friction polish on this, and
Mhm.
I'm sure you don't want to like eat it or anything, but I don't know, I think just probably any sort of barrier to keep it from drying
Anything to
out
fill the
too
pores
fast.
so that there's less moisture exchange.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Latex
so-
paint.
so yeah, I did the bowl, and actually I need some hot files for my forging, so I ordered. I know there's a lot of people get very particular on which files are the best. You know, there's Nicholson and Simons and Grobe and all these Fared, all these files out there. But I just needed a set for hot work, so I ordered a set of Nicholsons for like $50-$60. Then I just started turning handles for them, and it's actually a lot of fun.
Cool.
But
Well, Will, what you got?
yeah.
What do I have? Well,
I
finished a project for the challenge, where I made a pair of bedside tables with not hidden, but continuous grain apron with a full width apron drawer with half blind dovetails. Aprons are made out of curly maple, some like pretty crazy curly maple. The legs are spalted curly western maple, which is just, it's got a lot going on. The drawer boxes are Indian rosewood that actually came out of the founder of Grizzly's house that he just tore down. There were actually stair treads in his house, and so that was kind of a cool tie-in to take something out of his house and put it in my house. And then the tops are beeswing babinga, and I somehow forgot to look at a calendar and didn't realize that today was going to be February 1st, which is the launch date for the videos between me, Chris Salamoni, and Kyle Toth. It was a collaboration between the three of us to see who could make the coolest thing out of the same types of wood. So that video will launch later today, and after this podcast, I'm going to get back to editing and do all my voiceover, and hopefully meet the deadline. Then I'm still working on the Live Edge Vanity Cherry Slab project. The clients were kind of back and forth on design and didn't know what they wanted, and so I finally had one of them come out this weekend and just start moving parts around and, just kind of talk it out in person rather than this email and text back and forth with photos and do you like this and do you like this and what about this? So gonna get started with that, finishing that. Also, something that's kind of cool. My dad's a contractor, and he's working with another contractor right now, just filling in some empty space. And they had these Western cedar, I want to call them, they're decorative braces, like architectural braces that would go almost like a corbel, but not really a corbel, but that would go between like a post and a beam to support it from racking. Mm-hmm. And he needed to make a straight cut on it, and he knew that my bandsaw was big enough to handle it. So he had me cut it, and then he took it back to the job, and the contractor in charge of this job was saying that, they pay big money for these cedar faux braces, and that he would love to buy them locally. So I'm thinking about sourcing some Eastern red cedar locally and just batching a bunch out and selling them for $120 a piece.
Cool.
Yeah. How about you, James?
Looking forward to coming out and see it. Yeah, that's a good switch over. I'm actually coming out to see that here.
Yeah.
And I'll be at Will's place on Saturday.
Yep.
It's all running together. I'm actually, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to upload this podcast, and then I am hitting the road for a 14-hour drive out to Philadelphia. And then tomorrow I'm going to drive down. I'm going to stop by Sharon Rogers and say hey to him, and then drive down to Fredericksburg, Virginia. And on Saturday morning in Fredericksburg, Virginia, I'm going to be speaking at the Fredericksburg Area Woodworkers Guild. And so that should be a fun time. I'm going to speak on how to mess up, because people need to know how to mess up. But I'm also going to be bringing the spring pole lathe, which is currently up in my car. So I've had a couple people like, "Ooh, I'm looking forward to playing with that." So if you're anywhere near and you want to come out and play on the spring pole lathe, Fredericksburg, Virginia, Saturday morning, it should be a fun time.
I'm really excited to hear your thoughts after speaking at the Fredericksburg Area Woodworkers Guild. I'm speaking there in April, and they kind of gave me a topic to pontificate on, about managing social media with your woodworking and incorporating media into your workflow, which I am kind of shy about talking about because I'm not nearly an expert on, work-life media balance. I just make pretty things and pretty videos, and but
I've been there once before, and I've got a couple good friends out that regularly go there, and it's a really cool group. They're actually, one of their goals is to make the Fredericksburg area a destination for woodworkers, and with all the other things around, Williamsburg not being that far away, and other events and people in the area. It really is kind of a good hub for woodworking in general. So, yeah. But other than that, I started work on the saw vise, which will be my next big build, where I'll be going into full detail on that video series as well. That won't be quite as long as the side table. It should only be like 6 to 8 videos. But that should be a very interesting build, not furniture, but a saw vise. Let's see what else. This week I also shot, because I want to, rather than doing a continuous series on that particular build, I'm going to punctuate it with other smaller videos. And so I did one video on telling when the lumber is dry, because I brought in these slabs from Matt Cremona into my shop, and I'm letting them do their finishing drying. So I did a video on, how do I know when to use them? And then I did a video on lubricating your soul. Yes. How do you lubricate your soul?
Oh, wow.
That should be an enjoyable one. So many good
do you use
jokes for that.
Sounds like a Beatles.
Yeah. All joking aside, do you like the Paul Sellers rag in a can?
Actually, I'm going to be going about a whole bunch of different methods because the last year or so I've been experimenting with different waxes and oils, and for the first year I used Paul Sellers rag in a can, and the big benefit with that is it's fast. One swipe, you're done, you're back and get going, and if you leave it on your bench top, you can swipe and keep going. The downside to it is oil rubs off very quickly. A few dozen strokes and it's hard to feel the lubrication anymore. The other really common one is beeswax. So you get a wax crayon or a wax block of anything, and you just rub it on the sole, and that it takes a little bit longer to do it, but it lasts a lot longer, and it's a little bit more. It's a little bit smoother. The downsides to it is, number one, it tends to build up on the sole. And if you're not careful, you'll actually have a slightly thicker spot in your sole where there's more beeswax. So the first stroke or two, you might have a odd sole bottom. The other problem is that it takes longer.
So does that
a couple others?
Does that not impart wax onto your workpiece?
To the tiniest amount, but you never, not enough that it really matters. And usually at that point, you're taking off material, and so your next stroke is going to take off whatever was last on there. So yeah, it does not cause any issue with finishes and things like that.
That doesn't make sense in my head, but
the amount that is on there is so little that it does not cause any issue, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Not enough that any eye or magnifying glass could see.
I use now I use like paraffin just because I can keep a block next to my bench and it's quick and it's always there. But hands down, like the smoothest, best stuff I've ever used is that McQueen's Mutton tallow.
Yeah.
That stuff is ridiculous. It's like playing air hockey with your plane, but it's you have a little canister and you have to unscrew it, and it takes it takes long enough to where like I'm not gonna do it. But it is the best I've ever used. I mean, it feels like your plane is floating.
Yeah, I talk actually no, I don't talk about mutton. That is the traditional method for wooden planes, particularly.
It's magical,
and that's the reason why a lot of, particularly the English wooden hand planes, are almost jet black, is because of the years of adding mutton to the wood. But the method that I currently use is actually using a block of harder paste wax. Because I did a video a while ago about making paste wax, and so I make a wax that is 2 parts beeswax to 1 part linseed oil, and it's soft enough I can leave this block on my bench and just drag the plane across it like I would with an oil rag. So it's that fast, but it still has the wax embedded, so it lasts a little longer. And, that's my current method.
I think I need to get on the I need to start making my own paste wax. I seriously, like lately I've been going through a can of paste wax like a week, which is insane because
and it's so easy to make too. Especially when you get your own recipe that you really like. And
I use it for blackening a lot of the stuff that I forge. And like I reached out to who is it, Johnson or whoever makes
SC Johnson,
and they're not really interested in working with me on anything. So I'm like, I think I'm just gonna make my own.
SC Johnson's just so huge that they're just like, you talk to one guy and they're like, we're not even gonna run this up the flagpole. Like,
I think they're so big that nobody has to do anything. Like none of them probably don't even have an office.
Yeah, right.
But I'd like to make my own and mess around with some different ratios to see. I love the way I love the way that stuff smells. I know that's really weird.
I was using a lot of paste wax last night at 10 o'clock at night. Wow, that sounds bad. No, so my new favorite finish, and the key here is speed. I'm used to working with wiping varnishes and oils and different mixtures, whether it's, you know, pre-mixed armor seal or whether you're making your own. But because I was against the wall with this grizzly project, and because the spalted maple was so, as wood starts to spalt, it gets softer and wants to suck up anything you put on it. And so to stop that from putting like a million coats of oil on it, I did a shellac. It's a waxed shellac 3-pound cut, just because that's what the local hardware store had. They didn't have any seal coat or anything. Coat of that, and then paste wax over that, rubbing it in the grain with 4/0 steel wool, and then buffing it out with just a cotton rag.
Mhm.
Oh man, like that beeswing babinga. I was having the hardest time. It's just so babinga is like 2,400 pounds per pound feet on the Jankus scale. So that's hard. Plus, it has this crazy figure that's just back and forth grain, and no matter how sharp my number 4 was, like couldn't
Yes.
couldn't get it without the least amount of tear out. So I took a card scraper to it, still had some tear out, and then did this shellac paste wax buff, and it's
Wait, you had tear out with a
amazing.
card scraper?
Yeah, this
Wow,
stuff
that's
is
some
crazy.
fun stuff.
No, it was not. Yeah,
My definition of fun is twisted.
No, like I'm used to working with curly white oak and curly hard maple and just things that are prone to tear out. This thing, it's like the grain almost swirls in it. Like it's not just up and down or like back and forth, but it was like turning. So I don't know what this tree looked like, but
Wow.
Anyway, so paste wax.
Do you guys want to hit a question or two, or do you want to just
sure.
jump into joke of the week? Or
yeah, let's take a question.
okay, let's see. First one was from Yonatan24, one of our most common question peoples. He asks a lot of questions, so thank you for that, Jonathan.
He's a questionable person.
Have you ever used an angle grinder belt with a belt sander attachment? What could they be used for? It looks to me like they're only used for grinding small things like that.
I've seen those. I've
Those
never
little finger belt sanders.
Yeah, I think they'd be. I would imagine they're nice for just getting into smaller areas and stuff. But I've never been in a situation where I wished I had one. At least not yet. But
I've seen them used for power carving,
Yeah.
and actually getting into tight corners. But I think their most common place is grinding. We used to use them in our metal shop for getting into the tight corners for welds and smoothing out little spots. But yeah,
I haven't used one, and I feel like Jonathan is just in the mood to buy some tools.
yes, yeah. Because then his next question is: have you ever used a flex shaft or a rotary tool?
And I haven't. I've been wanting one to go. I've got a Dremel, and I was just in Lowe's the other day, and the flex shaft attachment was like $20, and I almost bought it, and then I was like, no, be frugal. You don't need that. So I'm with you, Jonathan. I kind of want one because I'm not a fan of rotary tools in general. I think they're underpowered, kind of like a toy. Like they're good for some things, but the way that I use them, either a router or a die grinder would be the way to go.
See, that's why I have a $600 4-dorm flex shaft with a 4-foot hose. I used to use it for jewelry working because I used to do goldsmithing. And for those, it's phenomenal for getting into rings and things of that nature. The big benefit to me of a flex shaft over a rotary tool or rotozip is that it's smaller in the hand. You can hold it like a pin, and all of the torque from it is back in the machine, not in your hand. So it allows you to have far more finer detail in what you're working on, so that you're not moving this massive head around. So again, for like power carving and things like that, it would be phenomenal. Actually, haven't pulled mine out in years, but yeah, any jewelry, small pieces. I've seen people do them on like small figurine carving and things of that nature. They're phenomenal. Much easier than a rotozip. Yeah, let's do joke of the week. And this one is a bad one. I have to warn you guys.
I haven't heard it yet.
This one is a bad one. So it means it's gonna be really good.
That's the goal.
What's the best phone number a woodworker could have? Tree, 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 pine, 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 tree, 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 tree.
Oh wow.
Okay.
We're scraping the bottom of the bucket. So if any of you have any jokes you would like to add, feel free to send them to us. That one was from Joel Flaggerholt.
Fagerholt?
Fagerholt or Fagerholt, yeah.
We talked about him last week too.
I know. I think he's told us like 3 or 4 times how to pronounce his name, and I'm sure we're still not doing it right.
No. But thank you for the joke, Joel. So, Will, what are you reading or watching?
I am watching myself edit videos. I haven't really had any chance to watch anything. I've been listening to a lot of Pandora lately. A lot of stand-up radio, which is always fun.
Who are your who do you like? Who are your favorite stand-up stations or right now?
So as far as like the new classics, Mike Birbiglia is pretty great. Tom Segura is great, although sometimes a little raunchy, a little over the top. But I actually went and saw him in Richmond and met him after the show. And we talked about camera gear for a while. And he's actually a really nice guy in person. And then, God, what's his name? Jonathan. Oh, it's going to drive me nuts.
Yeah, we can come back to it.
Yeah, we can come back to it. And then also, music-wise, I've been listening to a lot of Coulter Wall and Tyler Childers.
Yes, I recommended Coulter Wall a while ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Nice.
He's like the Johnny Cash without trying to be Johnny Cash.
He's the Canadian Johnny Cash.
Yeah, it's one of those guys you're like, how do you have a voice like that? How does that timbre?
Yeah, he writes. I mean, like if you think about like Townes Van Zandt and just like all the great songwriters that like the unsung, gone too soon songwriters that all the country and Western singers kind of idolize. I mean, he just writes these he writes great like murder ballads. And
speaking of which, are you familiar with the Nick Cave album Murder Ballads?
No, I'm not. I know Nick Cave. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's a whole album of murder ballads.
That's funny.
It's great October music.
Fun.
That's funny. How about you, James?
What have I been watching? I actually have been watching Minute Physics. It is a channel that I have subscribed to now for probably 6 or 7 years. And originally they were 1 minute long videos about physics. Now they've grown a little bit to actually describe a little more. They're usually 2 to 3, maybe 4 minutes long. But they just recently started a series on special relativity, and I'm like totally geeking out about this. So anytime where you start getting into physics and spatial math and things of that nature, this is, yeah, I'm happy. So definitely check out Minute Physics. Their goal is to make physics and things like that down to earth so that the average person can easily understand them and do a very good job of it.
Oh, real quick, just on that note, little fun fact about me. When I was in high school, I did an independent study on the physics of skateboarding.
Huh.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it was my way of being able to get out of school to go skating and earn a grade for it.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'd make videos on me and my friends skating, throwing ourselves. Yeah, but this is back in like, actual video camera days, so the slow motion was pretty terrible. But I'd freeze.
Was 40 frames a second.
Yeah, and so I'd freeze frame and then do all the physics mumbo jumbo overlay over it. And anyway, so I just thought that was kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What you got, Zach?
So I actually I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but I talked about like, man, I just like want to see somebody like out in the woods, like building everything with axes and
Mhm.
just, and you said Northmen, and
Yeah.
I checked out that YouTube channel, and it is like my new favorite YouTube channel.
I
Uh,
love their canoe build.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh,
I'm trying to
that
find
is
that on
like
my
the
saved.
top of the list. They build a dugout canoe, and the whole time you're looking at this thing and you're thinking, "Wow, that's a really weird looking canoe." And then about halfway through the video, they start doing things that's like, "Oh, that is so cool."
So I went back, like sometimes this isn't good, but usually when I find a channel, like I'll go back to the very first videos, like because
Mm.
if I find something I like, I want to go back to the very beginning and watch all the way through. And sometimes that's a bad idea because people's content typically improves.
Yeah.
But where's my thing at here? Uh, so I went back to theirs, and their first videos are amazing. I've only seen 3 of them because they're like so intense that I only want to watch one a day. It's like I really want to cherish them. And if you go back to theirs,
Have you gotten to the house build?
no, I've seen. So they have a couple of strange ones that are just like short clips of like, this is what it sounds like to. This is what Damascus sounds like when you hit it, and it's like a 40-second clip. So those don't count, but they're their tool making videos. Like the first one is it's kind of strange. It says the birth of a tool part 2, which is their first video. There's no part 1. Well, it is, but it's after part 2, which makes no sense, but it doesn't really matter. So like the first one I watched is like the chisel making video, and then they have one where they make an axe, and they have one where they make a Damascus steel knife. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
But it's just like I don't typically care a whole lot about cinematography and stuff. I mean, but there's a certain level, like when it crosses a certain threshold of quality, it's incredible. And like the cinematography and everything on their videos is just incredible. I mean, it's
You're
out in like the snowy woods, and it's like the life I want for myself. It's my dream life is to be one of those guys.
you broke my heart a little bit when you said you don't care about cinematography.
Well, I've said it before. You're one of my favorites for that reason, but I don't know. I feel like not that. I mean, it's not one of the primary things I look for in videos. I'm usually looking to see like I don't know, but there are a few exceptions, and Will, you're certainly up there. I've said that before.
Aw, shucks.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, do you have a favorite tool of the week, Zach, or should I move on to Will first?
I do, and I don't have a link to it because it doesn't matter. So my tool of the week is the 90-degree Needlenose Pliers. The pair that I have is I have a pair from back when I was a mechanic, Snap-on, but it's Needlenose Pliers. It doesn't have to be Snap-on, but they're God, I don't know, they're probably about 12 inches long, and at the end they curve 90 degrees. And it's one of those tools that you wouldn't look at and think, wow, that's useful. But I use it all the time for so many different tasks, especially forging and stuff. You can just get into places, and they're
Are they the ones
so
with the long
useful.
handle and the fulcrum is close to the head?
They're, I
The
mean,
fulcrum about halfway.
yeah, well, more than halfway. It's closer to the head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
So you can
think.
still get some pressure on them, but still have your hand a
Yeah,
ways away.
yeah. I mean, they're just super useful. You just next time you see a set, pick them up and keep them in sight, and you'll be amazed at how often you will use them. It's definitely probably one of my most used tools. Just
Sweet.
strange.
What about you, Will?
My favorite tool this week is either my live edge marking gauge that I made a couple weeks ago, because I've been laying out a lot of mortise and tenons and dovetails and stuff like that. But probably my 1/4-inch Stanley Sweetheart socket chisel. I made a bunch of half blind and through dovetails and cleaning out the waste in between like the tails at the tip, the 1/4 inch. I kept trying to go up to a bigger chisel, but you know, I would run into space constraints, and so I just kept with the 1/4 inch, and probably my best dovetails I've ever done.
Sweet. Looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, the video out today. Oh, you'll see them in person on Saturday.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, for me, I'm going to go with Fusion 360. I am an AutoCAD man to the core. I've been drafting with AutoCAD since like 2002. And then around 2004, 2005, somewhere in that range, SketchUp came out, and I moved to SketchUp for my quick 3D things, because that was very common for theater work. And I have been using SketchUp for most of my drawings and plans, but with SketchUp 2008, they're no longer offering a free version. So if you want the free version, you have to stay with 2017. They may change it in the future, but it looks like they're phasing out the free SketchUp, or pushing everyone towards the online version, which is very limited. So I think I'm going to be changing all of my plans to Fusion 360 as opposed to SketchUp. Fusion 360 allows you to do a lot more than SketchUp ever could. So I have to say that is my favorite tool of the week is Fusion 360, free and far more useful. So as long as we can get enough woodworkers who are willing to dive into that as opposed to SketchUp, it should be a great useful tool for plans.
All right.
Cool. Well, it's only been like 35 minutes, so you haven't actually wasted an entire hour. So I hope you're happy with that. I do want to say a huge thank you to our patrons on Patreon. We will be, we actually need to talk about that here soon and revamp a few things on that.
Yeah.
So we'll have some news coming out with Patreon. And so thank you for that. That's about it for this week. If you'd like to join us live, you can do so on the Crafted Podcast on YouTube. And feel free to pick that up whenever you are available. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.